Watch the glass. That is an axe, and it comes down on this display case 56 times in less than 30 seconds. Behind the glass are 3 sets of Saxon diamond jewelry that have been sitting in this room for 300 years. Go back a few minutes. A street electrical box near the palace is on fire. When it goes, the street lighting on this side of the river goes with it, and the whole bank of the Elbe drops into the dark. Inside the palace, a night watchman is watching a wall of monitors. The street outside is dark, but the cameras in here never stopped. And there are 2 men in the jewel room. He reaches for the phone. If you value deep dive investigative crime documentaries, please like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications to support independent reporting. This is how they get in. A ground floor window and 1 bar of the grill that was quietly cut days earlier and glued back so nobody would notice. Tonight they just lift it out and climb through. And this is how the night ends. The getaway car, an Audi, burning in an underground car park in Dresden because a burnt car is supposed to have nothing left on it worth finding. Dresden. The Residenzschloss sits right on the old town side of the Elbe, a few minutes walk from the river, and about the same again from a slip road onto the Autobahn. Inside is the Grünes Gewölbe, the Green Vault. 10 rooms, about 3,000 objects, and it is one of the oldest museums in Europe. It has been open to the public since 1724. It was built by one man's competitive streak, Augustus the Strong, Elector of Saxony and later King of Poland, who wanted a treasury that would embarrass the court of Louis XIV. What he assembled were sets, parures, matching suites of diamonds and rubies and emeralds, made to be worn together and kept together for 3 centuries in the same building. By day, this is one of the hardest tickets in Germany. Timed entry, a strict cap on how many people can be inside, an airlock at the door to keep the dust off the gold. Here is the geography, because it is short. A ground floor window on the outside wall, a corridor. Then the jewel room, and in the middle of the jewel room, 1 case. About a week before, somebody comes to that window with a hydraulic bolt cutter and takes a bite out of the iron grill. Then they glue the cut closed so it looks untouched, and it works. For a week, that grill passes inspection from the pavement. The bar is in 2 pieces, and it is holding together on nothing but adhesive. Prosecutors later said they were investigating around 40 more people around this case. Among them, 4 men they suspected of walking in as ordinary visitors to study the place. Now the night itself. It is a Monday. It is late November, and it is cold. The old town at 4 in the morning is about as empty as a European city center ever gets. Then somebody sets fire to that electrical distribution box. Not a random bit of vandalism. It is the thing that feeds the street lighting around the palace. By morning, this is what is left of it. Melted breakers, cable insulation burnt back to the copper, and a good part of a city block with no lighting on the street. Watch what happens on the riverbank. The lamps along the water go out in a run, one after another, and the front of the palace goes from lit stone to a black shape. A fire in the street at that hour brings out a fire crew, and it pulls attention, which is useful, because by then the thing this fire was for has already started. 2 men come through the window and down the corridor. Dresden's police chief said afterwards that they went for the display cabinet in a targeted way. They knew exactly where they were going. The room they are standing in is mirrors and gilt on every wall. 2 torch beams in a room like that go everywhere at once. It is a terrible place to try to work quietly. This is the case. Laminated glass, a steel frame, and inside it 3 sets of 18th century Saxon jewelry, 21 pieces, carrying more than 4,300 diamonds. Then the axe. 56 blows in under 30 seconds, not one careful cut, just hitting the same case over and over until there is a hole big enough to get an arm through. And then something almost delicate. They lean over the broken edge and lift the pieces out with fishing twine, hooking them up through the splinters one at a time. In the monitor room, the watchman is seeing all of it. The lights outside are gone, but the cameras inside are on their own supply, and they are recording every second of this. He does not go down there. He is one unarmed man, and the 2 on the screen have an axe. He raises the alarm and he stays where he is. That was the right call. Before they leave, they empty a fire extinguisher across the floor, foam over the glass, over the footprints, over anything they might have dropped or touched on the way in. Then out the way they came back through the window, across the pavement, into a waiting car. From the first blow to the street, the whole thing runs about 10 minutes. That is the other thing about this building. The palace is minutes from the river crossings, and the river crossings are minutes from a slip road onto the motorway. Officers are outside the palace 5 minutes after the alarm goes. 5 minutes, and it is already finished. The car is gone and the window is empty. The car turns up quickly. What is left of it, anyway? A burnt shell in an underground car park, which is exactly what you do to a car that has been sitting outside a museum. From there, they change cars. A Mercedes, dressed up to look like a taxi, and a straight run north out of Saxony toward Berlin, while the roadblocks are still going up behind them. It is about 2 hours on the motorway. 2 hours between the room those jewels had been in since the 1700s, and a city of nearly 4 million people. In the morning, the museum staff are allowed back into the room. There is foam on the parquet, glass everywhere, and a case in the middle of the floor with a hole in the top of it. This is what an emptied case looks like. Fitted recesses in blue velvet, cut to the shape of each piece, and most of them with nothing in them anymore. Marian Ackerman runs the Dresden State Art Collections, asked what the pieces are worth. She says the museum cannot give a value, because it is impossible to sell them. The material value does not reflect the historic meaning, she says. Saxony's leader, Michael Kretschmer, puts it more bluntly. Not only the gallery has been robbed, but the Saxons. The count settles at 21 pieces. A shoulder ornament, a sword and its scabbard, buckles, a hat ornament, brooches, a great diamond rose, and rows of small jeweled buttons. One of them is the shoulder ornament that carries the white Saxon diamond, 49 carats. It is one of the great white stones in Europe, and it had never left this collection. Another is a sword, not a weapon anybody ever fought with, a dress rapier with a hilt crusted in brilliance, made to be worn at a court that was competing with Versailles. And then the small things. Shoe buckles, a hat ornament, a stone lifted from the badge of the Polish Order of the White Eagle, buttons, which sounds trivial until you see them. Here is why this matters more than the money. These pieces are a set. They were designed together, cut together, mounted together. Take some out, and what is left is not a smaller set, it is a broken one. The one they might have wanted most was not even in the country. The Dresden green diamond was on loan in New York that month, sitting in a case at the Metropolitan Museum. These things have survived worse than a man with an axe. They came through the bombing of Dresden. Then Soviet troops took them east as war booty, and they only came home in 1958. The numbers in the papers that week are wild. One tabloid says €1 billion without saying where it got that. The insured figure later given in court is far lower, and there is a worse worry than the price. If you break a piece like this up, prise the stones out and recut them, they stop being evidence. They also stop being the thing. The Dutch art crime investigator Arthur Brand tells Der Spiegel the worst case is people who only want the material. Take out the diamonds, melt the mounts, and the works are gone. Saxony puts up a reward, €500,000 to start with. A private fundraising effort later pushes it up to €1.5 million, and it produces nothing. The police build a standing team for this. They call it Soko Epaulette, after the shoulder ornament, about 40 officers working nothing else, for more than a year. And they have something most museum jobs do not leave behind: footage. The break-in was filmed from start to finish, and the officers go through it a frame at a time. The burnt car gives them more than the arsonists expected. Fire destroys a lot. It does not always destroy everything, and the lab pulls usable traces out of the wreck. In March 2020, prosecutors confirmed they are looking at 4 security staff from the palace over whether the thieves had help inside. None of them ends up on trial, so we do not name them here. To understand where this goes next, you have to go back 2 years and about 200 kilometers north to a museum on an island in the middle of Berlin. In 2017, somebody took a 100-kilogram Canadian gold coin out of the Bodie Museum, using a ladder, a wheelbarrow, and a skateboard. It has never been found. In early 2023, men from the same Berlin family are sentenced over that coin. One of them, Wissam Remo, gets 4.5 years and appeals it. So when the Dresden investigators finally have names, one of them is already a convicted museum thief with an appeal running. That is the point where the 2 cases join up. And on the 17th of November 2020, before it gets light, a very large number of police arrive in Neukölln in Berlin, all at the same time. More than 1,600 officers, 18 flats, garages, and vehicles searched at once. 3 men are arrested that morning, all German citizens, all from the same family. Jürgen Schmidt, for the Dresden prosecutors, confirms it that morning. One of the men picked up has already been sentenced for the theft at the Bodie Museum. The 2 cases are linked. Later the same day, Saxony police put out photographs of 2 more men from the same family, both 21 years old, wanted for serious gang robbery and for arson. One of those 2 is picked up in Berlin in December. The other stays out of reach for another 5 months, and the search for him runs right through the following spring. The last of them, Abdul Majid Remo, is arrested in May 2021. 18 months after the robbery, everyone the Dresden prosecutors want is in custody. The trial opens at the Landgericht Dresden on the 28th of January 2022. 6 defendants, brothers and cousins, aged between 23 and 28. They come in handcuffed, holding big ring binders up in front of their faces, jackets over their heads. Under German practice, the court calls them only by the initial of the family name. The Dresden prosecutors charge aggravated gang theft and serious arson. There are 14 defense lawyers from all over Germany, and because 2 defendants were young at the time, the juvenile court is involved. And for most of the first year, the defendants say nothing at all. The court sits, the witnesses come and go, and the 21 pieces are still missing. 47 trial days, more than 100 witnesses. Then, late in 2022, something starts moving out of sight of the courtroom. Exploratory talks between the defense and the prosecution, a settlement, and a return. And in the middle of December, police in Berlin go and collect 31 individual pieces of the Green Vault. 3 years and 3 weeks after they left Dresden, they are driven back to Dresden under special police escort. The same 2 hours down the same motorway that they went up in the back of a taxi that was not a taxi. 3 years before. Then the museum's own people have to answer a question nobody wanted to ask. Are these actually the pieces? And if they are, what has happened to them? Under magnification, you can read a lot off a piece like this, where a setting has been sprung, where a stone has been worked at, whether somebody tried to take it apart. On the 10th of January 2023, it comes out in court reporting. Der Spiegel and the Süddeutsche both carry it. Parts of what came back are badly damaged, not scratched, damaged, settings sprung open, mounts bent, stones missing out of pieces that had been complete since the 1700s. Some of it is not fixable. In January, the deal is made formal. 4 defendants admit their part through their lawyers. A 5th confesses only to getting hold of things like the axes used on the case. The museum also does the unglamorous thing and puts in a claim. Reporting at the end of January puts the figure at 89 million euros for the damage and what is still gone. 16th of May, 2023. 5 men are convicted. 1 is acquitted, and we do not name him. The sentences run from 4 years and 4 months to 6 years and 3 months. The reaction in Germany is not gratitude. Politicians and newspapers say the deal bought those sentences too cheaply. The prosecutor answers that without the deal, nothing comes back at all. One of the twins, Abdul Majid Remo, apologizes to the court before the verdict. He calls it a gigantic mistake and says he wants a life without crime. He is one of the 5 convicted. It does not quite end there. A second trial over the break-in opens in Dresden in January 2024. In May that year, it ends in an acquittal, so that man is not named here either. On the 13th of August 2024, the recovered pieces go back on show in the Green Vault. The museum does not hide the state of them. It puts them out as they came back. And this is the ending. The white Saxon diamond never came back. Neither did a diamond necklace or a great bow-shaped breast ornament. You cannot commission a replacement Saxon jewel set. There is one, and it is short. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and turn on notifications for our next deep dive investigation.